Hi, I'm Beth Drucker, and I'm the co-facilitator of Go Green Illinois with my colleague, Kim Stone from Highland Park. This is the 59th meeting of Go Green Illinois. We've been meeting since 2013, bringing a variety of topics to a growing group of environmental activists throughout the suburban Chicagoland area. We're delighted that you're here today. And before we start the program, I'm going to turn things over to Kim Stone for a welcome and a few announcements. Kim?
Yes, thanks, Beth. I just want to welcome everybody. We are amazed. We've got almost 100 people who had signed up to be on today for this topic, sustainable schools. And Beth, as Beth said, we really want you to bring this information back to your local school and share what you can. Our next meeting is on March 14th at 1 o'clock. If you're not already on our email list, please go to our website and sign up. That's the only way you will get notice of the meetings. And the meetings will be by Zoom, at least for now. We've been able to reach a much larger geographic area by doing it that way. So we're going to continue that at the moment. There is an upcoming program that Sierra Club is hosting about sustainable schools, specifically solar. We will put information about that into the chat. So if anybody's interested in attending, I think it's later this week, you can see how to sign up for that. I think that's everything. I don't think we have other announcements. Beth, have I missed anything?
I just want to call to your attention that many of the groups put on terrific programs, and they are almost always open to all of our community members. For example, Go Green Northbrook is having a sustainable fast fashion program that's virtual on the 18th of January at the with their library. They've opened registrations to be unlimited. So please, that's the kind of thing that you can get your people to go to Go Green Northbrook's program, and you can get that same information out without creating the webinar yourself. So if you have something like that to share with the group, post it to Go Green Illinois and we can get the word out. Thank you, Kim. So the topic today is sustainable schools. The last time we did this topic was 2015. Time flies, COVID happens, and we, most of us have stepped back. If we were involved in our schools, we stepped back a bit because schools were handling a lot, and to put any extra demands on them didn't seem quite fair. But now, with almost 3 years down the road, we're ready to get started in our schools, or else initiating a post-COVID reboot, which might be what's happening in your community. So special thanks to Becky Brodsky. Could you raise your hand, Becky? Becky and I reconnected in December. We had not talked since probably before COVID. Becky is a specialist in this area. She currently works for 7 Generations Ahead. She was very involved in District 65 and Evanston Township High School. And it was Becky who put me in touch with Phoebe Beierle. So Becky, I'd like you to start the program by introducing Phoebe for us, please.
Great. Hi, great to see so many people here today. And I apologize if there's any background noise. A plumbing truck just started rumbling out front. So sorry if you can hear any background noise. So Phoebe works for the Center for Green Schools, as Beth mentioned, and as at the U.S. Green Building Council. And she leads the center's educational programming, which provides resources, tools, and research to a growing number of decision makers within the nation's school districts. And since joining USGBC in 2016, she has managed and helped grow the only professional network for school district sustainability leaders from around the country, including hosting a year-long fellowship program and annual summit. Phoebe comes to the Center for Green Schools from the Boston Public Schools, where she worked as a Green Schools Fellow from 2011 to 2014, and then as their sustainability manager with the district's facilities department until 2016. The Center for Green Schools is literally at the center of the Green School movement and works directly with those implementing sustainability within school systems, offering a wide array of initiatives that help schools take action. They have been my go-to resource since I started this work 15 years ago. I'm so happy that Phoebe is here with us today to share more about their work. So take it away, Phoebe.
Thank you, Becky, for such a nice introduction. Thank you, Beth and Kim, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to, an honor to be here presenting to you all, and alongside such esteemed group of folks. Can you all see my slides okay? Okay. So Becky mentioned I'm with the Center for Green Schools. I lead programs for the center. For those who are not familiar with who we are, Becky gave kind of a nice overview, but we are part of the U.S. Green Building Council, which is
Sorry to interrupt. Your slides are a little small and we can see your notes.
okay. That's helpful to know. I'm gonna just show you my normal slides and not my.
That's it. That's
okay,
right.
perfect. Yeah, so we are part of the U.S. Green Building Council, which is best known for the LEED Green Building Rating System. I'm sure this community has some awareness of our work, but we are a team of 4 within the broader USGBC. For context, and our focus really is supporting and training those implementing sustainability within the school systems to be change agents. So Becky's been an awesome change agent that I've had the pleasure of working with. We work with school districts around the country, and again, champions who are usually at the district scale. We do support some individuals who are at a school scale, so like a green team champion who wants to try to get hired and grow their work around sustainability and like maybe transition from a teacher role to a sustainability role. And so it's not just district staff, but primarily district staff. And we do education, we do webinars like this for our community. We host an annual conference and summit. We do research and advocacy, all geared towards supporting our peer networks, this group of community members that we're connecting. So our professional networks mention that we have the only school sustainability leaders network. We started a network last year, which is sort of a subset focused on environmental health in school districts. So these are folks who have, are working on indoor air quality or environmental health, but come with a sustainability lens. Yeah, but the sustainability staff position in a school or school district is unique. It's not unique at the higher ed level. It's not unique at the corporate level. There's offices at higher ed. Pretty much every college and campus across the country has an office of sustainability with multiple staff. Typically, K-12 is a little bit lagging in this respect for various reasons. And our goal really is to help schools understand their role in addressing climate change issues, using tax dollars the best they can by saving resources, and taking the opportunity to connect students to the amazing resources that exist on their campuses, within their buildings, to connect to STEM issues and 21st century skills. So just for context, well, we're talking about our network in these districts that have already hired and are employing sustainability staff. It's not just East Coast, West Coast. It's really across the board. It's quite geographically diverse. And we have over 150 districts represented, close to 300 participants in our network. And we've really focused since 2011 when we started this, this network in particular, really sort of supporting these folks deeply, and have offered 40 different scholarships or fellowships, and fund folks to travel to conferences for free and do a lot of coaching and PD with these individuals. In terms of the national representation, it's not that many districts, 150, but in terms of the number of students and buildings represented, it's quite a lot. So we're representing around 17% of the public school students across the nation with our network, because typically we're working with medium and large districts. These are the districts like Chicago, for example, that can hire, that have the resources to hire a sustainability position. That is changing though, and we're seeing a lot more smaller districts making the commitment. So these are the folks that we, some of the folks that we work with. There's about 80 of us gathered together in Portland, Oregon for our Green Schools Conference and annual summit, March 2020, like days before the world shut down. And as I mentioned, like one of the ways that we support these folks is through research. So we want to help them do their job better. We want to help them grow their teams. We want to help them access resources and also help grow sustainability priorities, across their community. So one of the ways we do that is through research. And We've done that through sort of understanding their staff profile and making the case for sustainability staff and the investment at the district level for this work. So I'm going to share a little bit about some very recent research that we just conducted. It's not even published yet, so you guys are going to get the sneak peek. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the case studies or examples of how districts have made the case for sustainability position, how they funded it, and kind of created it internally or through external partnerships. I could go on about this topic for a long time, so I'll try to keep it short, and then we can address Q&A, or I'm happy to follow up after the fact. Yeah, so just for context, in 2015, we published our first report on the profile of sustainability staff in the K-12 sector. We did a follow-on survey in 2019, but we didn't publish those results. And as I said, late 2020, we issued another survey to our community. We got 59 responses from 42 different districts with a few independent schools in the mix, and we'll be publishing these results in the next month or so. So in terms of who these folks are, the profile, and this kind of follows suit for the broader membership in our Sustainability Leaders Network. So the vast majority have sustainability in their title. The other folks tend to have sort of more focus on facilities. There are other directors of facilities with a sustainability focus, or a little bit more focused on energy. We also have some recycling and folks who are dedicated to recycling, and we are seeing more and more individuals who are part of like a team at a district, where one person's in facilities, another person's in curriculum and instruction divisions, which is really exciting to see. In terms of where they're located, again, not surprising based on the kind of job category, the vast majority are in facilities or operations departments. But we are seeing, as I said, more in teaching and learning. So not surprising, but I just wanted to highlight this for folks to sort of like, this is who we're talking about, like folks who are reporting to directors of facilities or operations folks. A couple other additional profile details that I wanted to share is that the vast majority of folks were full-time, like established positions. So we're not talking about like cobbling together consulting roles or like lots of grant funding to create a position. These are folks who are on the books, which is slightly different than what we saw in 2015. We did see more consultants in 2015 analysis. Over 50%, over 60% of respondents were the first person to hold the position at their district. And we see that about half are serving in positions like 5 years or less. The other half are 5 or more years experience. So this role, the folks who are in these roles are kind of, I would say they're not all like brand new to their positions. Some folks have been in these positions for a while. Another trend we're seeing is that these roles are not just one individual anymore either. So they're working as a team. So they either have hired someone or they're working closely with another person in another department as like a core team, not just like a colleague in waste management or a colleague in food and nutrition services, like an actual team, sustainability team. I wanted to share some of the drivers for like why these positions have been created, because I think that really, for those that are on the call who are interested in creating a position or exploring this for their district, like what was the impetus? We see that the vast majority, I think, were administrative or board champion was the top choice. Folks could choose up to 3 here, by the way. Staff and faculty champion was another. Sometimes they can be board, a combination. And then personal advocacy continues to be a high one here. So, you know, sometimes it's an intern who's like making the case to have a position created. Sometimes, again, it's like a teacher who wants to take on more of an administrative role focused on this work. And when we looked at the number of folks who had like one driver versus more than one driver, it was about, I think like half of the folks had one driver. So it was like a clear winner. And then the rest of the folks had like 2 or 3. So it's not always super cool. When we looked at this compared to 2015, we saw that in 2015, in the middle there, pressure to comply with city, state, or federal regulations rated higher, which is interesting. We also saw that reorganization of a department was a higher ranking in 2015. And this year, 2022, we saw student champion or student initiative was on the radar this time around. And if anyone's following the news in this sphere of work, like, the students are really driving a lot of the conversation and priorities around climate and climate justice in school districts. So I imagine that if we did this survey in a couple of years, that would be a much higher bar in this chart. In terms of what these folks are doing, we've surveyed a lot of different questions about kind of roles and like areas of focus, but I thought this one was kind of nice to highlight for those who are not familiar with this role in school districts. Like, what are these folks doing? All of them are documenting sustainability metrics, which is good. Some of them are, and more than I expected actually, to the right of this graph, are increasing staff capacity. So they're spending more time on like actually growing their team than they used to be. And so it's, in addition to like implementing things, they're also trying to increase capacity. So these folks are developing plans related to sustainability or climate action plans. They're developing policies and strategy, and also many are working on sustainability related district policy. And so these are folks, the orange bars are those that are doing it, have done it, or are working on it. And the blue bars, the folks that have not done it yet. All right, we also looked at salaries. So this is a kind of a blurry chart, sorry about that. So the average salary, we will publish this data based on regional variations as well. So this is just kind of a quick snapshot. But we looked at salary, and then we also looked at savings. And when we compared salaries to the savings that folks reported, this is savings based on like dollars saved from energy savings or water or waste savings to like leverage grant dollars brought in. The median respondent saved the district 2.2 times their salary. So I think nothing else, this like helps make the case that investing in these positions is worthwhile financially. You're going to make your money back plus some. And we see that at the municipal level and the higher ed level over and over again. So now I want to transition, because I know we're short on time and I'm flying through this, but that's kind of a high level kind of profile of like what these folks are doing and what where they live in a district typically. I wanted to share some strategies for creating a sustainability role for your district. I'd love in the chat if you all, if anyone has been involved in making the case for your school or district to hire someone dedicated to this work. Chime in, share your stories. Love to hear what others are experiencing. But from our national perspective, a couple of the areas of strategy center around creating a policy. So you can set a goal for actually creating a position, or you can create a structure that sort of like warrants a position, because the work is such that if you don't hire someone, it's never going to get done. Portland Public Schools is a good example, and it's sort of a good example in that like recently it's really taken off. It took a long time actually for the district to get on board with this policy they had passed, until a student brought it forward and said, hey, what are we doing around this climate justice policy we passed? And now it has developed into multiple positions at the district and a new climate justice policy, like a whole nother plan that resulted this past year. So that's an example of a policy. In Salt Lake City, Utah, for example, students led work to create a clean energy policy for the district, and included many categories. So it wasn't just clean energy, but it was 100% clean energy by 2035, I think. And it included work in all areas, from transportation to student curriculum. And so a consultant was hired to lead all these committees that were established as part of this policy. And so they didn't necessarily hire a new position, but they hired a consultant to lead a lot of the work that is now resulting in departmental action. Another strategy is to start with interns or volunteer positions and kind of build the case from there. Actually, one of my colleagues who left Parkway School District in Missouri and came to the Center for Green Schools last year, she volunteered her time for a whole year. Maybe it was longer, whole year at least. And then the district said, "You're awesome." And her boss made the case to bring her on. When she left last year, they replaced her position. So there's another woman leading that work there. In Lincoln Public Schools in Nebraska, Brittany Alden has been in that position for at least 8 years now, I think. And she has worked with interns every semester and finally was able to make the case to bring one of them on full time. Fundraising, obviously, to finance the position is helpful. We see this actually happening less often than I think I would like, and maybe with the focus on schools and the focus on climate issues, that this may be more of an opportunity given foundations to focus in this work. But the Center for Green Schools early on received quite a large grant from corporate donors to create fellowships in Boston and Sacramento and Grand Rapids, Michigan. I was a fellow in Boston, and that was funded corporate funds.
Phoebe, you're
Yes.
2 minutes over your 15 minutes allotment. So if you
Okay.
could just finish
Yeah.
up, that's great.
My apologies. I thought that I had time this. Okay. Another one is participating in grant and award opportunities. The DOE class prize is open right now, and a great opportunity, $100,000 to use towards energy staff or new energy staff. Partnering with local wastewater energy agencies that have an interest in working with schools is a really smart way to start. And then obviously, if you can get the administration to agree that like any resource savings are paying for the positions, that's another strategy that we see quite successful. I invite you all to come join us and learn more at the Green Schools Conference in New Orleans in end of February, and follow up with any questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Phoebe, thank you. I think I did say 50 to 20 minutes. So you're right. You're right on time. Thank you.
It's okay. No, I apologize. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to turn it over to Becky Brodsky, right? We're going to hand it back to her. Okay. And I'm excited because we partnered quite a bit to like help try to make the case for a position at District 65. And so I hope that she can share a little bit about what that looked like.
All right. Thanks so much, Phoebe. Becky.
All right, thanks, Phoebe. Awesome to see that that data come together. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Sorry. All right. Is that good? You can see it? All right. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to, before I get into kind of the work with District 65 and Evanston Township High School, I'm just going to give a little background about what I do at 7 Generations Ahead with the Zero Waste Schools program. So 7 Generations Ahead, for those of you who are not familiar with our work, we're an environmental nonprofit based in Oak Park, Illinois, and we work to build healthy and sustainable communities around Illinois with a focus on the Chicagoland area. And I work specifically with the Zero Waste Schools program at SGA, where we work with school staff and students to shift operations and minds towards generating zero waste through source reduction, recycling, commercial composting, and food recovery. Much of our work is focused on the lunchroom, as this is where the majority of school waste is generated. We're grant funded, so we work specifically in the areas of Chicagoland where we've received funding, and we always keep a list of interested schools for when funding opportunities arise in that particular area. We've helped dozens of schools across the region divert their lunchroom waste from the landfill at an average of about 85%, including schools in Chicago Public Schools, Cook, Lake, and McHenry counties. So the benefits of zero waste schools are many. There's just a few. Give students something very positive that they can do on a daily basis to combat climate change. The schools can serve for as a model for other schools in their area, and there is a big potential for cost savings. And Phoebe mentioned, lots of different that sustainability coordinators can do this. So this could be definitely, this is one of the jobs, zero waste is definitely a focus of many sustainability coordinators. There's a huge savings to be had from recycling and composting. Of course, that varies from school to school and district to district, but even before schools start composting and recycling, they can just by right sizing their dumpsters and changing their pickup frequency and really paying attention to that, districts can save a lot of money. And I recently read an article about a school district in Ohio that consists of 11 schools, and they were able to save $22,000 a year after starting their recycling and composting program and right sizing their dumpsters. So another benefit is making curricular connections. The cafeterias are definitely places of learning, and making that connection between the classroom and the lunchroom is super important, and also can definitely contribute to community zero waste goals. So definitely need to get schools on board if communities want to meet their zero waste goals. So this is what we do as a big part of the Zero Waste Schools program. We set up sorting stations that look like this. This is what ours look like, but they can look in, you can have all-in-one stations. They can look many different ways. We like to do this because it's a very versatile setup. We've got a share table, liquids bin, recycling bin, landfill, compost, and then tray stacking. And in this case, these are compostable trays, so those would go in with the compost. And some schools might choose, just to recycle, so we wouldn't have a compost bin. So these are the steps that we generally follow when we work with schools to set up the zero waste lunchroom. And we recommend, even if schools are doing this on their own, these are really good steps. So building a zero waste team, students, staff, principal, food service staff, ideally custodial staff, having individuals from those different areas. Then you plan out your waste reduction strategies. And again, we focused on composting, recycling, but we also do make lots of recommendations for food recovery and just waste reduction in general, with a focus on single-use plastics and food waste. We help coordinate the operational changes for composting, for commercial composting, and help with setting up sorting stations, and then educate about the how and why for students. And we always recommend, that we create a video, and we recommend that all the staff and, food service and custodial staff watch it as well, because it's super important for them to be on board and understand why they're doing this. Then organizing student monitors is super important to avoid contamination. And we create a launch day waste audit. We do that with student support. And then again, we recommend right sizing the hauling services, and then celebrate and communicate impact. And we create a one-pager for the school so that they can share it with the school community with the results of the waste audit. So what does this impact look like? This is an example of an elementary school with 1,000 students. And they, at their baseline waste audit that we did with them, 94% of materials were sent to the landfill and only 6% were recycled. And then on launch day with our waste audit that we did with them, 89% of materials were compost, recycled, or otherwise diverted from the landfill. And they went from 25 bags of trash a day to 2 bags of trash a day. So it has a huge impact, as you can imagine. So here are some resources that we've created, and these can be sent out hopefully with a follow-up email. So these are some of our zero waste schools. Our toolkit is filled with guides, our own guides, as well as guides from other organizations, Center for Green Schools, the Illinois Green Schools Project with the local USGBC chapter, the Illinois Green Alliance, and then cafeteria culture. So these are some of our go-to resources that I highly recommend you take a look at. So switching gears now to wearing my other hat, I'm going to back up a bit and share about how I got started in the Green Schools world, and share about my efforts with other committed parents to bring sustainability efforts to my local school district, Evanston Skokie School District 65. My work in school greening efforts began about running up to 15 years ago when my son started kindergarten. I worked on projects at his school while advocating for sustainable changes to be made at the district level as well. And then about 5 years ago, I connected with an amazing group of women with kids at other schools in the district, and we formed the District 65 Green Teams, which is now known as the District 65 Climate Action Teams. We brought together parent leaders from the different schools while continuing our work at our own schools, and we began to ramp up efforts at the district level as well. And once schools were back to in-person learning after the pandemic in the fall of 2021, we really decided to narrow our focus to advocating for a district sustainability coordinator, so that all of the efforts would be longer lasting, institutionalized, and just part of the district culture. And also so things would be more equitable, so all schools would be able to receive the same benefits, even if they didn't have a dedicated team of parent volunteers. So here are some of the efforts we made to advocate for institutionalizing sustainability efforts and for hiring a sustainability coordinator. I know that this is a super long list, so keep in mind this happened over many years. This list can just give you an idea of the different ways to approach the task. Each district is different and has different priorities. So make sure to focus on your specific district's priorities when you're advocating. So ultimately, we think that the work we did to educate the superintendent about climate change and its impacts on our specific community is what really tilted the scales, and also making them decide to hire a coordinator, and also getting the school board's buy-in was super important. So this, again, a list of some of the things we did. We developed a relationship with the director of operations and coordinator of nutrition services. We had meeting after meeting after meeting. Meeting with superintendent, school board members, the mayor, the sustainability coordinator in Evanston. We wrote op-eds. The list goes on and on. You can see more examples here. And we also encourage students to get involved, presenting at school board meetings and city council meetings. It's really important for them to hear that this is something that students feel is important too. And we focused on also the city's climate action resilience plan, and especially when we spoke at city council meetings and board meetings, that if the city wants to meet its goals in the climate action resilience plan, then the school districts, being such large entities, need to get on board and help them meet those goals. So again, some of the key strategies that we took when approaching the different, the school board members, superintendent, all the different meetings that we had: focus on equity so that students would all receive the same opportunities; environmental justice; the need to institutionalize these efforts so that they would be long lasting; potential for cost savings; again, providing education and background on the issues with every presentation is so important, because we can't assume that they know what we know, and that they understand why it's so important. Highlighted the benefits to our students in particular in the district. Again, aligning with the city's climate action goals, and focusing on what was important to our particular community, and enlisted support of expert community members. That was key as well. So since Karen Beretta, the district sustainability coordinator, she started in May part-time and then moved to full-time in July. She's not able to join us today, so I'm just going to share some of what she's currently working on. She's been able to provide focus to the district's sustainability efforts, provide expertise to all the district's different departments, and make sure that all schools have support for any sustainability initiatives they wish to implement. Note that having a person in her position will ensure that someone is paying attention to the potential for cost savings from these sustainability efforts, including those from right-sizing dumpsters that I mentioned earlier. So at the district level, they are actually just instituted, there's finally composting and recycling in every school, every building in the district. It's 18 buildings. So as of December 2022. So that's super exciting. And that would not have happened without having somebody at the district communicating with all of the custodial staff and the principals and everybody that needs to be on board with that initiative. She's also developing a sustainability strategic plan advocating for student governments in middle schools and green climate clubs in each school, and building climate action garden team communities at every school. So then at the school level, it's really like providing support for the schools to do these different initiatives, and as well as big focus on planting trees and native plants at all of the schools. Again, it's all about equity. So making sure that all the schools have access to these initiatives, Earth Month activities, just again, making sure all the schools can participate in that. And we see the others on the list, and school supply reuse. That was a big focus because that's a big concern coming from teachers and parents about all the waste with school supplies. So having school supply swap closets, again, that's also an equity issue, making sure that all students have the supplies that they need. So now switching gears to Evanston Township High School. I became involved in that efforts at ETHS let's see, when my son was a freshman, so it was about 6 years ago. Students formed a sustainability committee at ETHS in 2019, and that committee was comprised of students, community experts, parents, a couple teachers, and one administrator. So the idea was to have representatives from different district departments, but we did not have much success and getting regular attendance from school leadership. And we met regularly and spent much of our time divided into different subcommittees of energy, curriculum, waste, etc. And the overall committee stopped meeting when those students graduated. So this is a testament to having school staff, school leadership lead these sustainability committees. It's super important to have students involved, especially at the high school level. We need their input. And but it can't be long-lived because obviously the students graduate after a handful of years. So we've had really good success with the waste reduction committee that formed during those original sustainability committee meetings. And we've been able to meet regularly. And the key to the success of that committee is that it's led by Robbie Brown, who's the associate principal for school operations and logistics. And we've been able to get a lot done with his leadership and his commitment. So this particular committee, we've worked with Robbie, and as well as the Director of Operations and Sustainability, John Crawford. We have instituted composting and recycling in one of the cafeterias with plans to roll out another cafeteria this semester. There are 4 cafeterias, so it's quite tricky to do to compost across the board. Set up classroom and hallway recycling with consistent signage and consistent bin placement, focused on paper reduction, plastics reduction, and then additionally, ETHS has been composting in the kitchen for a minimum of 4 or 5 years, which is really, really great. And if any schools are interested in bringing commercial composting, if it's a larger school, especially, and if you have a kitchen where food is prepared, starting back at the house is often a good place to start. So they recently hired, and I'm just about done. Yeah, I'm just about done. They recently hired a Director of Operations and Sustainability, as I mentioned, as a response to student and community member request for a sustainability coordinator. And while we're really happy that they created this position, covering both operations and sustainability is an enormous job, as you can imagine. They're individually each large jobs. So we are going to continue to advocate that ETHS hires a person just to focus on sustainability. And I know I covered a lot of ground, so if you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out about Zero Waste Schools, District 65, or ETHS, or anything else. So thank you very much.
Okay, great. Becky, thank you so much. One thing I wanted to mention, to go from 25 bags of garbage to 2 because of one waste audits, phenomenal. I wanted to mention that District 65 has created, with Becky's help, a fantastic job description for a sustainability coordinator. This is what they used to hire the person that they hired. If you want to see it, we've posted it to the Go Green Illinois website. Just take a look at it.
It is under resources on the Go Green Illinois website. I'll put a link in the chat.
Anyone who's, go ahead, Becky.
Oh, I was just going to say, you can also reach out to me and I can email it to you directly.
Okay, great. anyone reading it will wonder how any school district thinks they could possibly do this work well without hiring someone who is trained and committed and focused in this area. So Becky and Phoebe, thank you so much. We're going to make a little bit of a shift, and we are going to talk about electric school buses. Those are the hot new thing. The transportation industry is electrifying so quickly, but Susan Mudd of the Environmental Law and Policy Center has been working on this for what must feel like forever. Susan is here joining us. She only has until 2 o'clock, so we're fitting her in right now. So with that, Susan Mudd is going to tell us what's happening in this field, what school districts are eligible, and how you might be able to apply for funding. Susan, thank you.
Thank you, Beth, and all for the invitation, and thanks for being here. And thank you, Mia, for helping with these slides. Why electric school buses? As many of you no doubt are aware, most school buses are currently diesel, and diesel is not good for human lungs, especially children's lungs. Children's lungs are still developing. They are especially sensitive to air pollution as their lungs are developing, and riding in old dirty diesel school buses has connected with asthma attacks, missing school days, and reducing lung development. When we started this project and when Go Green Illinois started, there weren't any electric school buses, but as of a few years ago, there are now. And as of today, every single school bus manufacturer has at least one electric model. There are over 22 electric models currently available. So this is just to show you some of the examples of what's now out there. Next slide, please. We worked a few years ago to kick off efforts in the Midwest to get funding for electric school buses. Why? Because the practice is diesel and to the lesser extent propane, and new electric school buses do still cost significantly more than a new diesel or propane. They're on the order of 3 times as expensive. So we know that school districts who are cash strapped for the norm needed some assistance to both see an electric school bus, not hear an electric school bus, see and experience them. So we worked to get VW settlement funds from the VW Dieselgate scandal allocated for electric school buses across the Midwest. That's because we're a Midwest organization. And this was the initial allocation across these 4 states. Next slide, please. The VW money and some few other things led to this sort of commitments across the Midwest where we work. Next slide, please. In Illinois, as I showed on the earlier, there were over $10 million allocated initially. No need to go forward, please. There were over $10 million allocated for electric school buses. Some of those of you on this call are among the early awardees of Illinois EPA funds. Arlington Heights Township High School, Barrington, Evanston District 65, or excuse me, Evanston Skokie District 65 got the first Head Start electric bus for a Head Start program in the Midwest. Also, River Trails, Lyndall Schuster, who's on this call at River Trails, was one of the early awardees of Illinois EPA money from the VW money for electric school buses. This is showing an electric school bus being charged up in the central part of Illinois. That was due to a lawsuit that our organization and other environmental groups did about the Edwards coal-fired power plant. And local groups there decided to spend some of the settlement money to get electric school buses for 2 school districts in central Illinois. Next slide, please. The other huge thing that's happened under then Senator, now Vice President Kamala Harris, there started to be a couple of years ago rumblings about federal money for electric school buses. There'd been money under other programs to add filters to diesel school buses and other minor improvements, but the first huge input of money for electric school buses is now law through the bipartisan infrastructure law. That created a $5 billion 5-year program. EPA last year put out the first round of that money. They were offering $500 million. They got over $4 billion in requests, over 95% of which were for electric school buses. So there were a couple of other types that were eligible, but electric are definitely the wave of the future, and actually the wave of the current. Because of the overwhelming requests, the administration put out over nearly $1 billion, over 90% of which were for electric. Next slide, please. This shows you the school districts in Illinois, which were awarded money in that first round of Clean School Bus Program funding. I hope you can see it. But what it shows is that there are places around the state that will be getting money for electric school buses. And again, among those of you on this call, Aurora, it was on the wait list. Evanston is on the wait list for electric school buses from this money. Naperville is on the wait list. Oak Park is on the wait list. And what does the wait list mean? As I mentioned, there was overwhelming demand. So on this map, you see the school districts that were awarded electric school buses in the first round of money. The wait list is frankly a list of all the school districts that applied and didn't get it in the first round. So there's a lot of them. The wait list, for those of you who are on it and those of you who wish you were on it, it's not a guarantee. People will need to reapply. EPA has told us that they are unlikely to allow an application just to roll over. So what's needed to apply for any of these funds? With the federal money, which will be rolling out in waves across the next 4 years, there will be both the rebate round, which happened this last year, and it's a rebate not like any you've ever heard of. When I apply for a rebate for something, I usually think I have to put in an invoice or show a receipt and then get paid back, but I will have had to put the money out front. EPA listened to school districts when setting up this program, and the rebates are actually, once you've been approved and you put in the purchase order, you get the money before you have to send it to the manufacturer. So this is actually this was actually a very easy application and will be easy to get the money. For the grants round, which are expected later this year, they will be more like the traditional grants with harder, frankly, more in-depth applications that will be larger applications requiring more coordination. So this is where things are. I should have mentioned how much money is available under these programs. For a priority school district, and this is a very specific term that we can get into, school districts who won the lottery could get up to $375,000 for an electric school bus and up to $20,000 for the charging equipment. That met all the current prices that were being touted by manufacturers at the time. Some manufacturers right now seem to be taking advantage of this and raising their prices. That's something we're working on to get EPA to figure out a way not to, frankly, screw school districts by raising their prices at this time. These monies should cover the costs of an electric school bus and the necessary charging equipment. Next slide, please. One of the reasons that electric school buses are of interest, and we hope will be of interest to more school districts across Illinois, are the possibility for serving the grid as well as the school district. Clearly, a school bus's main function is to give rides to and from school and to and from musical events, sporting events for students. But it turns out that school buses really are idle on the average at least 75% of the year. Most school buses, of course, there's exceptions, but most school buses don't operate at all during the summer and don't operate during the middle of the day and don't operate in the evening. Those are times when these batteries on wheels can effectively send power back to the grid and even over time make money for the school district. There are companies working to set up these sorts of arrangements and help school districts with this. And this is something we're also working with ComEd and Ameren on here in Illinois to get them to set up programs that will incentivize and help school districts that want to be part of serving both their own needs and also over time getting reimbursement for helping the grid during peak demand times.
Great.
Next
Susan,
slide.
you're just over 9 minutes.
And I'm almost there. Next slide, please. This is a couple of other Illinois laws which are meant to reinforce and help with electric school buses, but let's move on to the next slide because we're almost done with that. This shows Illinois revised its its VW plan. There's now over $30 million of Illinois EPA money sitting there waiting to be given for electric school buses. Last slide. I wanted to make sure that you see this last slide. It shows how you can be kept up to date on both the Illinois and the federal funding for electric school buses. Please make sure to get on these listservs for up-to-date information from the relevant state and federal agencies. And then thank you very much. I'm glad to answer questions later. I know we've got short on time. Thanks.
Okay, great. Susan, thank you. But I also know that you need to leave. So you may not be around, but so if people had questions specifically about this, Susan, where would they turn next week?
Please call me at ELPC. I'll give you my cell number and or email me. My email is smud. I'll put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat before I get, sorry about that.
Okay.
It was on the last slide, I think, but anyway.
Let me ask one question that was in the chat that I think is relevant to most. What is the applicability of these grants to private bus companies? I know that's really complicated.
Yes, good question. So in the original federal program, it differs state to state, differs state and federal. Under the Illinois EPA VW funds, private companies could apply quite simply and did. And that was at the school, individual school level were the original applications. In the federal program, it's at the school district level. And there was this priority list. And frankly, if you're a priority school district, you have a much better chance and you get more money. And the overwhelming applications means that non-priority districts are not very likely to get money. I'm glad to share that list with anybody. It's also public. But in terms of the applicants for the first round of federal money had to either be the school district themselves or the manufacturer. The contractor or leasing agent could work with a school district and could essentially get the money, but it had to be done by, the application had to be from the school or the OEM. That may change in future rounds because it created a lot of confusion.
Okay, quick yes or no question. Is anybody manufacturing half-size electric school buses?
Yes, type C on the original slide, the first slide, you'll see there are some that are already doing type C school buses.
Okay, great. Susan, thank you. Thank you for years and years of work. We're going to see this happen. So thanks very, very much. Okay, so we are on time. We're next going to have Theresa Greinig. She is with the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County. We understand that you are not all in Cook County, but SWANCC, that of Lake County, they're doing a lot of these similar programs, but we could only have one of the speakers. So Theresa Greinig is going to let you know how a school can move ahead quickly by asking SWANCC to help them with their waste reduction. You might also, Theresa, help people understand why would they call you versus Seventh Generations Ahead. Sounds like you do a lot of the similar things. Help us understand that. And with that, we've got our next speaker. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Hello. Looking at my computer screen, of course, we tested this early. Are you seeing my notes? Or are you seeing my?
Looks good. It's good.
It looks good. Okay, not just lighting up on my end then here. So thank you, Beth and Kim, for inviting me to speak today. I'm very excited to be with this group. I am Theresa Greinig, and like Beth said, I am from SWANCC, which is the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County. I've been here with SWANCC for about 7 years, and I serve as their education coordinator. Many of you from this position know Mary Allen, and she's very sad that she can't be here today as a joint presenter here with me. She is actually currently sitting on a plane headed towards the memorial service of one of her cousins, but she says to say hello to everyone. So I'm excited that we're going back and talking about the basics of how to start or restart recycling and composting at any school level. Get things to switch here. Just as a bit of background, SWANCC was founded in 1988 as a non-for-profit municipal joint action agency. We have 12 member communities and oversee the management of about 260,000 tons of solid waste in a year from these communities. It's about 230 households of about 800,000 residents. We also operate a transfer station and provide programs and resources for prevention, recovery, and safe disposal of that waste. As Becky mentioned as well, if you're not in Northern Cook County, we do also have our sister agency, SWANCC, who might be the one to serve many of you on here today if you are from Lake County. I'll have contact information for SWANCC as well at the end. So the picture here is truly kind of a mantra that guides SWANCC's programs. With everything we buy and use, obviously it comes from the finite resources of our earth. When we buy less, conserves water and energy, natural resources, as well as helps reduce those greenhouse gas emissions we were kind of all just talking about as well. Recycling seems to always get the press, all the discussion, while reduce and reuse are often ignored. And that is actually kind of a problem, and where SWANCC comes in, because the most effective means of sustainable materials management is to reduce and reuse. Only then comes recycling and compost. So when we're talking about schools and we break down the massive amount of waste that schools produce, about 25% is recycled paper, cardboard cans, bottles, and cartons, and 50% at least, like Becky had mentioned, is food waste. So this counts for 75% of the school waste that goes to landfills. But from our perspective, if you kind of flip that, it also means that 75% of school waste is recoverable. And that's what we're after. So SWANCC communities and its schools can benefit from a variety of programs and resources that we offer that target this waste reduction and recovery. We'll offer workshops and presentations, both to kids, faculty, adults, outside organizations. We have digital resources, a brand new set of curriculum that we just released, and education newsletters. We also do lunchroom audits, and we offer school grants. And since 1993, SWANCC has awarded over $300,000 of waste grants to over 1,000 schools. Many of you are sitting in here in conversation with us today who've received those grants. And with all the ideas that everyone is presenting, hopefully the fire is reignited under most of us, and we're going to go back to our communities and try to raise that bar. So if any of you are from a SWANCC community and have some of these ideas rolling around in your head as to how to go about waste reduction in your schools, we have a little bit of money left from our grant funding from this year, and we've decided to go ahead and extend that deadline for the grant application to January 31st. So if any of you from SWANCC communities have ideas you'd like to go ahead and really try to get rolling and implemented, let us know. There's a possibility we could have some funding for you, and I'll include that in the chat at the end. So through the workshop today, we're reminded of quite a variety of resources that surround us. And now we need to establish the framework that will help us take action and move everything forward. So small steps lead to big change. Adding something new once we're kind of used to doing something helps practices become normalized. And we always like to remind everyone that more hands equal lighter lifting. So our desire, like everyone else has stated too, is for school districts to actually have a sustainability plan and help navigate those short and long-term goals, as well as outline those responsibilities. It's vital for the administrators to endorse these practices so they again become normalized and last for generations. Otherwise, like has been mentioned, these efforts lose their champions and they become lost in the shuffle. We also all recognize that sadly only students only get so far without administrative support. As mentioned, they age out and everything just kind of becomes lost. So the framework in the slide here, we've kind of addressed through our workshop today, so I won't dwell. But when we're asked what the steps are to help move forward with the ideas, we just remind everyone to first revisit your action plan and then give it a kickstart or start fresh if need be. If you don't have one in existence, put it together and ensure that you educate and train all of your staff. So striving for zero waste in schools sounds daunting. So we need to recognize that zero waste is not a finish line. It's just a continual process. In basic operations, we always recommend simple ways for reducing waste. Target classrooms or lunchroom. Special events, meetings, you don't have to do them all at once. Pick one, give it a shot, see where it leads. The main idea is to simply use durable and reusable products instead of the disposables wherever possible. Some of the easier ways to get started or more common ways we work with schools is to promote waste-free lunches from home. Some of our favorites are when the students actually produce the letter and the information that goes home to their families and help with that process. Utilizing something simple like a dry erase board in lieu of paper in your classroom. Supporting reusable water bottles or drinking stations for students and staff, reusable cutlery, and even a fun project that I did at my son's elementary school was they decided they wanted to reduce waste in paper waste, I should say, in the cafeteria. And we did a school-wide and then family-wide of everyone in that school project where they made reusable tie-dye napkins. And I can tell you 8 years later, there are still students who bring those napkins to school in their lunch or with their lunch. So that was pretty fun. You know, we definitely understand that reducing waste in schools is a challenge. We also now recognize all the resources that are out there to help us in this process. So again, where do we begin or even pick up when we left off? So as again has been mentioned already today, a large part of establishing the zero waste is addressing the food waste. So as we remember that 50% at least of waste in schools come from food, the first goal would be to get good food into the mouths of hungry people. Share tables, Becky mentioned, for unopened food and beverages is always where we recommend to be a good start, and then to take it a step further, conducting that waste audit, because you can't manage what you don't measure, and there's many benefits to creating or carrying out that waste sort. So sorting stations don't have to cost a lot of money. Labeling all those containers very clearly is a must. And also vital that on the onset of instituting any composting or recycling program, there needs to be oversight, again, by those administrators and that green team. And additionally, to involve others to help educate the students and the staff, help make sure that the proper materials are put into the stream during the course of the year. And we've found as well that our food service, our lunchroom support, custodial staff, all really need to be trained so they're in the know, but they've also truly become some of our biggest adversaries in the programs we've done at schools. So again, only after we talk about and take action on reduce, reuse, and recovery, we kind of think about dealing with the leftovers. And that would be the recycling and compost aspect. So the link to recycling is only as strong as those who physically manage those materials. If there's a weak link in that chain, it just shatters all the efforts. And often that comes from some of our custodial staff because they're simply just not aware of what it is they need to do, and that they absolutely cannot bag recycling in the outdoor dumpsters. So even if you don't have programming necessarily at your school, maybe there's a bin for picking up recycling, just make sure that those bags do not end up in the dumpsters, or it's a contaminant and it all goes to the landfill. So as mentioned previously as well, label your containers throughout the schools, indoors and outdoors. Keep recycling simple in your classrooms and lunchrooms to reduce that confusion. The idea truly is to capture that quality of material and not the quantity. Focus on that paper, cans, cartons, those bottles. And just keep in mind as well that everything has to be empty and completely clean, no food residue. So along with proper recycling comes proper composting. And with that, it has just huge benefits. Since 1990 in Illinois, lawn organics have been banned from landfills and must be composted. But only since 2010 have food organics been allowed to be mixed together at some of the permitted composting sites. So composting the food scraps instead of landfilling them also reduces methane gas, which, as we know, is a huge contributor of global warming, but it's also a main component for rebuilding nutrient-starved soil. Composting done right has huge benefits environmentally, but when we're also trying to work with schools on the idea of composting and its importance, often it comes down to the dollar and the effort, like that's been discussed already today too. But again, it can potentially reduce that overall cost of waste hauling by reducing the size of the garbage dumpsters, needed, and just simply the frequency of those pickups at school. So while commercial composting works best for schools, homeowners can compost in their backyard through backyard bins or indoor vermicompost. The vermicompost, if you've never used it in your schools, is also a great teaching tool for students. Unfortunately, in the small amount of time we have to discuss composting, there's no way we can go over all the idiosyncrasies of using it educationally and environmentally, both at home and in our school system. But as with everything else, there's always great resources out there. So in addition to SWANCC and SWALCO and everyone else that you've heard of today as well, check out a curriculum we also like called Environmental Pathways by the IEPA. I'll also have that link in the chat in a minute. And International Composting Awareness Week is coming up in May. And that would be a great way to involve your students and also with the administration on the need and its benefit for implementing compost. So if you're experiencing this or novice, I hope everyone today makes a commitment to raising the bar of sustainability in your personal lives and at school. And if there's anything SWANCC can do to be helpful, please reach out to connect. We have resources again, videos, activities, curriculum, toolkits, newsletters. We can be found on social media. So committing to a sustainable life cycle certainly takes effort, but has tangible efforts. Don't make the mistake of underestimating the importance of those small changes we can all do every day. Simple does not mean unimportant. Even the smallest actions can make a difference when multiplied by many, and that's when where our students come in. So thank you for your time, and again, be sure to enlist the assistance of all of our Go Green community members, SWANCC or SWALCO, whenever needed, whatever help we can be.
All right, you are on the button, 15 minutes. Thank you, Therese.
Excellent.
Just wanted to mention our next speaker is Dennis Stonequist from Loyola Academy, but I do want to put in a plug. After Dennis, we are going to have two speakers that are going to be talking about putting solar energy on the rooftop of your schools. That is happening now. We've got some really exciting news, both locally and statewide, by Mia Karinke and Dave Conway of New Trier High School. So please stay on to make sure you hear their talks. Next, I'd like to introduce Dennis Stonequist of Loyola Academy. As we have been talking, it is very, very important that you get top-down support for sustainability in your schools. And so when the number 2 person at Loyola Academy contacted Go Green Wilmette to said, all right, we are ready to make a commitment. Could we talk to you about it? And might you be able to help? We've been working together, and Loyola Academy is a Catholic-based private high school here in Wilmette. He's going to talk a little bit about their incentive, which is a little different because it comes from the Pope himself. If you have any Catholic schools in your community, make sure you listen very carefully, because this is something that could be happening in your schools if there were a Dennis Stonequist kind of person. So listen up, and Dennis, thank you so much.
I just want to check. Thank you. First of all, if everyone can see my screen, just a quick. All right, good. And I will make it nice, short, and sweet. I think what my subject is administrative support. And I heard someone mention early that most of this stuff comes from students, and being in a high school, that couldn't be more true. These kids have challenged us as administrators to change in the way we see things, the way we operate. With as the Pope would say, a care for our common home, which is what I plan on sharing with you. One example of what our kids have done to show they have the common home on their mind. And I am so thrilled to be a part of it. Yes, we have done things like more recycling bins, begin composting. We have done all of these things throughout the building. We are looking at, one of our alums does work with solar on roofs. So all these things, we're checking those boxes, trying to move them down the field. But this is something a little bit more personal for us. We basically purchased a land across the street, and our students who are part of an Ignatian service learning class that combines service and environmental sciences made a garden for our community, at least a plan of a garden for our community. So that's the Laudato Si action plan, caring for our common home service learning initiative. You'll see they basically made this PDF or this slideshow I'm showing you. They understood that they needed to respond as the youth. I tell them all the time, we used to say you're the future, but unfortunately it seems like you guys are now. Like, you guys got to help us now, because we sort of messed this up for you, and I apologize, right? So they are taking that and making us understand what they need to do. And that's with responding to the cry of the earth, the cry of the poor, sustainable lifestyles, and they've added in some spirituality and community, resilience, and empowerment. You can see these are some of the action plans here on the left that they have made a priority this year, with planting trees, renewable energy. Our composting plan, although many were scared, our principal, Charlie Hines, said, I just don't believe we can't do it. Everyone says they get to an age, they just won't do it. Our kids have been next to those cans every single day, and the kids who are putting their stuff away are beginning to understand where it needs to go. And we look forward to the data on how much trash we have reduced. We will be getting that data pretty soon for this first semester. So we are excited about what it's doing. You can see the participation. I heard someone say, the more you get involved, the better it's going to be. Well, it's the same here. We involve the principal's office, our facilities team, our campus ministry, our service learning classes, the food service, science, and some of our extracurricular activities. You'll see the garden is located at 3434 Illinois, just across the street. Our architecture class built this with the architects who built our recent theater. They made this drawing, and we shared it with our neighbors. And from there, we have been, over the last 6 months, after getting a permit from the village of Wilmette, we started to build our garden beds, and we are working with some of the same guy who does the gardens at Evanston High School, to teach our kids how to grow in the off seasons, and at the same time, how to make these gardens action items for our kids. I think one thing I will say is I don't think we've said no to our kids. That's what I think it is. When asked, like, how can administration support? It's really sitting down and talking to them and not saying no, not saying, excuse me, we don't have the resources or the dollars for that. We find a way. Whether it is the composting, whether it is the upgraded recycling we are doing in the building, or whether it is how much of a concern the green, we wanted to get all the green awards we could for our recent theater, and our architects were a part of 2030. I think it's that we're, zero carbon emission by 2030. And they pushed us on that, and luckily had the Pope's backing. So we have been working very hard as a community, starting with the students and second with the administration, to show that sustainability, understanding, and caring for our common home is a part of who we are, and a part of especially who we need to be moving forward. So I don't have much more than just to let you know, we have supported our kids. We will always support our kids. And we are blessed to work with SWANCC and also Go Green Wilmette. They have been fantastic partners who have helped us really. We come here like with a bottle of excitement, and they don't tell us no, they help us. So we do the same thing with our kids. And if anyone ever has any questions, I'll put my email and my work phone. And we could share some of the things we do with you here. But I just want to give you one example. This garden really brings it all together. So that's all I got. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Dennis. Any of you who have worked in schools will agree that having someone high up in administration like Dennis Stonequist, who is enthusiastic behind it, is really, really important. And I love what he says. Our job is to not say no to our students. I once asked a climate research who had a young daughter. I said, how do we teach our children about climate change without terrifying them? And she said, you have to put them on the team. You have to make them have an idea that they can make a difference and give them a chance to do that. So this is what's happening at Loyola Academy and what could be happening at all of our schools. And fortunately is happening in a lot of them. So thank you. Before we talk about solar on schools, which is a really important topic, I want to mention that there is a subgroup of Go Green Illinois called Go Green Illinois Schools. There is a web page for it. You could find it by Googling Go Green Illinois Schools WordPress. It was started by Katie Narwald. Katie is looking for a team of people to help reinvigorate and reactivate that group. If you think that you're so interested in this, you'd like to help continue this kind of collaboration and learning beyond this meeting, please write in the chat to say, hey, Katie, I'm in. Contact me. Okay, thank you. Now, for the next thing, solar on school rooftops. We should be doing solar energy everywhere. So I knew this was part of the program. We first are going to talk to Mia Karinke. She is the head of Carbon-Free Healthy Schools Initiative. This is part of the Clean Jobs Illinois group. So she works with the state. She's going to talk about free ComEd energy audits that every school is eligible for. So with that, we're going to turn to Mia Karinke, but don't sign off until you hear from Dave Conway of New Trier High School. He is going to tell us about putting solar panels on the flat roofs of a massive campus in Northfield. Mia, you're on.
Thanks, Beth. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to folks today. My job is to work with school districts to help them think about ways that they can decarbonize their public schools, make them healthier for students. And a big part of that is talking about solar. So I have a couple slides that I'm going to share with you all, and then we can just kind of jump in. And I'm happy to take questions afterwards as well. All right. Can everybody see my slides? Perfect. Okay. So my name is Mia Karinke, and I'm the director of the Carbon-Free Healthy Schools program. I work for a labor coalition called Climate Jobs Illinois. We are a collective of labor unions across the state of Illinois, with a lot of folks centered in the Chicago area. We represent teachers and bus drivers and school janitors. We represent folks in the trades. We really came together around helping pass the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act in 2020 and negotiations into 2021. That piece of legislation in Illinois really charted our clean energy future, but it had a lot of specific considerations for public schools and also for working men and women across Illinois. So my background's in working with labor unions, working specifically with teachers and helping them think through the environments that they're teaching in and that their students are learning in. And so I sort of took that experience along with kind of like my personal commitment to climate justice, and I'm bringing it to this role at CJI. So that being said, these are kind of the three pillars of our carbon-free healthy schools program. I work with administrators, with school board members, groups of teachers and parents, and we help them understand and navigate different state and federal programs that are available to help with solar energy. We help them access the free energy audits that are now guaranteed to every school in the state. And then we also work with them on electric school bus planning. So I know you guys heard from Susan Mudd about electric school buses, and she's a great resource. So I'm really just going to focus on the first two today. So when we talk about investing in solar power, I think that one of the issues that comes up when I talk to superintendents and school board members is cost, right? They know that it's a long-term investment, but I think it can be a little bit scary, right? There's a little bit of hesitation there because there's so much money involved when we think about solar. And so I think it really helps to ground that conversation in real numbers. So right now, all of the schools in Illinois are paying over $300 million a year just in energy bills. So a lot of that is, factored into heating and cooling. And there's a lot of room for improvement, a lot of room for energy efficiency and also solar to help reduce those costs and give schools more flexibility to spend on other areas than energy. So when we talk about real numbers, you think about energy efficiency, things like lighting, things like heating and cooling, building envelope, that kind of stuff. That can save the average school district about 25% on their utility bill. But when you take solar energy and you combine that with energy efficiency, you get a much more powerful savings effect for the school district. So the solar panels themselves can actually pay for themselves in 10 years or less. And we're seeing that with a lot of the new incentives that are available starting this year. Schools are actually having a much shorter payback period. And so it becomes an even better deal for them to invest in solar. And so when you take energy efficiency and solar together, we did a study with the Illinois Economic Policy Institute, which is affiliated with the University of Illinois. And we found that the average school district could save about $6 million over a 25-year period, which is a lot of money for staff, for programming for students, for support, for instruction, other deferred maintenance in the buildings, that kind of stuff. So there's really great opportunity for savings. The next question I get from school districts is like, okay, that sounds great. We know this is a long-term investment, but how on earth am I going to pay for this upfront? And so I think it helps to talk about the different ways that you pay for solar. So solar financing kind of falls into two buckets, right? On the first, the left side over here, we have power purchase agreements, solar leases, those third-party ownership options. And on the right, you have the school district purchasing the panels outright. So I would say up until about the last year, these power purchase agreements and the leases a lot of times made the most sense for the school district. And the way that this agreement works is that you work with a solar developer one-on-one, and you sign an agreement over a 20 or 25-year term whereby they basically lease your roof space and put their solar panels on it. They purchase the panels, they maintain them, they install them, they do all the calibration for your inverters, and there's no upfront cost for the school district. It's absolutely free upfront. And then you pay for it by purchasing the energy that the solar system produces. So this is a good opportunity for schools that don't have upfront financing, they don't have any cash laying around to participate in solar. But the thing that you have to keep in mind is that that solar developer is making their money by cashing in on state and federal incentives. And then they don't necessarily pass all of the savings on to you, right? They take a cut for their business. So now that there are new state and federal incentives available that we'll talk about in a minute, it's actually starting to make more sense for schools that can't afford it to purchase the solar panels because they can cash in on all of those incentives themselves and they can actually save more money in the long run. So this is kind of a different model. But if your school decides that they want to purchase solar panels, you have that upfront purchase, right? You have that investment that you'll get financing for, but then you're able to pay it back relatively quickly with state incentives through the Illinois Shines program, which is basically a program that pays individuals, homeowners, businesses, schools for contributing clean energy through solar power to the electric grid. So get those state incentives. You also get the long-term savings, right? Your solar power is reducing your utility bill, and you can use that to pay on your investment. And then additionally, there's a new federal tax credit that was not available to public schools until this year. The thing with schools is that they don't pay income taxes, right? They don't file taxes like individuals do. And so they hadn't been able to take advantage of these really lucrative tax credits that solar developers have been taking advantage of for quite some time. And so the IRS has recently changed this rule to allow school districts to claim a 30% tax credit on a cash basis. So they'll actually get a check from the IRS for 30% of the cost to install solar. And so when you combine that with the state incentives, with the money that you're saving, the solar panels will actually pay for themselves and then some. And so I have a couple of examples to help explain how this works, but I think it's just important to understand the different ways that you can pay for solar and kind of understand what you're signing up for depending on what works best for your district. So these are some examples of schools in Illinois that have already invested in solar. So the map on the left is from the Illinois Clean Energy Community Foundation, which is a nonprofit that provides grants for small scale education based solar, right? So like 3 to 5, maybe 6 solar panels that schools use for educational purposes. So this is every school in the state that has received a grant for a small scale solar project or that has invested in large scale solar. So a lot of these are going to be smaller projects, but this does also include schools that are getting a lot of their energy needs from solar. And I have a couple examples of school districts up here that are using solar on a large scale. So Williamsfield School District is a district that I've talked with personally. They have what they call a solar garden that they installed in 2020 on some land adjacent to the school district. And they're estimating a 26% energy savings since installation. And their superintendent, Tim Farker, has become an advocate for solar at schools and is a great person if you're interested in learning more about how solar can work. So I'd be happy to put you in touch with him. Additionally, Grays Lake School District and Huntley School District are more in the Chicago area, probably closer to where everyone on this call is located. They've done much larger projects. Grays Lake has a 2.4 megawatt project that was completed in 2018. They have some on rooftops, some ground mount, and they are projected to save about $7 million. And then Huntley School District is actually the largest school solar installation in Illinois as of 2020, and they're now supplying 80% of their district energy usage with clean solar energy, which again is a huge financial savings. And then the last piece I want to touch on, because I know we're getting close to time here, is the carbon-free assessments. This is a brand new program, again, out of that state law that we talked about, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, that provides free energy audits to every public school district in the state. It sounds like most folks are going to be in the ComEd area. And so there is a link here for school districts to sign up for those free energy audits. And I will also put it in the chat. What it is it's basically an energy auditor will walk through the building. They'll give you a comprehensive energy audit of all of your building systems. They'll look at potential for solar and give you an estimate on how much solar energy your building could produce. They'll look at electric vehicle feasibility and what that would cost. And they'll give you a set of recommendations for the top energy saving and money saving opportunities for your school district. And our hope is that schools will use that money that they save by investing in energy efficiency and solar to reinvest back in the classroom and in the community. So this is a brand new program. It's something we're really excited about, and we've worked really closely with the utilities to help make sure that it's being rolled out in an equitable way across the state. And I would say that if you're thinking about going green and energy efficiency and solar, these carbon-free assessments are going to be the first place to start to have investments in green schools. And then just at the end here, I have some additional resources. I'm happy to send the slides out at the end of the presentation. There is also a shout out for that Carbon-Free Healthy Schools teach-in that Beth and Kim mentioned earlier that we're co-hosting with the Sierra Club. That is January 19th at 5 p.m. and there's a link to the registration as well. So I'll stop there. That's all I've got. Oh, Beth, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Mia. That was terrific. We wanted to have one person from a school that's actually putting solar on the rooftop. So we reached out to New Trier High School. We've got Dave Conway, who is here to tell us how I will say he single-handedly got the ball rolling. I know he's been part of a team, but making big change happens often takes a champion. And Dave Conway has definitely been the champion at New Trier High School for this solar project and many other sustainability projects. He heads the sustainability committee. So Dave, with that, you're on.
Hey, I'll bring up my presentation. And I'll make it quick. The project's cost $3.9 million. We're putting them on 5 of the 6 roofs at the campus. It'll produce 1.2 megawatts of power annually. It'll take care of 43% of the campus power requirements. We were purchasing it through a different way than normal. We're purchasing it through a TIPS cooperative versus going out for an RFP to a performance contracting company. We pay it back is 13 years. We're going to get $2.2 million in rebates. ComEd with $255,000. Solar SRECs, I'm sorry, are $828,000. And the federal government with the Inflation Reduction Act, we're going to get $1.1 million in rebates, and all that comes in the first few years. We're going to start on it in March, and unfortunately, we won't be able to finish until April 2024. We should have everything finished by the end of the summer, with the exception of the switchgear, which has a 55-month lead time. And that's an industry problem with what started with COVID. What really helped with the process was we had the support of everybody. We had the board support, we had administrative support, and we had community support. That made it easier to get through. And the board also had it included in a 15-year plan. And we're going to be working with the National Energy Education Development Program to figure the best way to implement this into the curriculum, and also how to showcase the solar panels and how much energy we're saving. Is that quick enough, Beth?
That was very quick, Dave. Thank you so much. We're really excited about this. They're going to be visible from the Edens Expressway, which is great. But all of you here now can see that solar really can happen. And especially if you have flat rooftops or southern facing rooftops, that every single roof is a place that we can be making solar power. So thank you to Mia and Dave for telling us how that can happen. We are pretty much on schedule, but I did give one extra speaker 5 minutes to talk about solar permitting in your communities. That'll be Lisa Albrecht. But before I introduce her, she's with the Illinois Solar Energy Association and Albright Solar. I just want to thank all of our speakers who spoke about school sustainability. We can put some cute questions in the Q&A if you still have them. All of our speakers have been very generous by putting in their contact information. They want to see you make progress as well. So this group can make it happen. Reach out to anyone that you heard or any of your colleagues, and let us know if there's any exciting news. Please let us know. But by all means, do a waste audit with either Seventh Generations Ahead, SWANCC, or SWALCO, and do an energy audit with ComEd. We are all paying for this. That's not free. We're paying for this in all of our bills. Those audits are going to go to the people that get on the phone or get online and get in the queue for the waste audit. So please make sure you do that in 2023, unless your school's had a very thorough waste audit through a private outfitter. And so, yeah.
One more thing. We took Mia's advice. We've had audits done by ComEd, both gas companies, and also CDAC. So we've had people going through our building for the last 7 years. And every time they come through, they find more ways to take advantage of the rebates and to save us energy.
Nutria has done an amazing job on 2 huge campuses in reducing their energy costs, which is, of course, the very first thing you need to do before you even think about solar panels. One interesting thing about integrating it into the curriculum, which I know Nutria is committed to, is they're talking about having students who are part of the robotics club do drone footage of the installation. And then there are all kinds of film editing students that could create a movie that then could be part of the education process for this. So Mia is talking about CDAC as another great resource. So I'm going to turn over to Lisa Albrecht. She has spoken to this group many times, and we're going to give her another 5 minutes here to tell her about how we can do more solar in our communities. So Lisa. I'm sure she's unmuting. She was here.
While Lisa gets unmuted, it looks like there are some questions in the chat, but most of them have already been answered in the chat. For those who haven't seen that or want to look back at those questions, we will be posting the chat to the website, the Go Green Illinois website, so you can find that information there, and the video of this program will be posted as well within probably a few days.
Yes, and if you think this information has been helpful, I hope that you will go to the Go Green Illinois YouTube channel, get the link, and share it with anyone in your community that you think should watch it. School board members, other PTO activists, students that would be interested. Lisa looks like she's still signed in, but Lisa, if you're not going to—
Can you not see me?
Yeah, okay, got you. All right, Lisa Albrecht.
Okay, great. I do not have any slides for the presentation. I apologize. I thought I would be parked, or I thought I would be somewhere, but did not make it off a roof in time. So thank you so much for squeezing me in. I wear 2 hats. I own Albright Solar, which is primarily residential systems, but I also am on the board of directors for the Illinois Solar Energy Association, and am working on a special project for permitting and hoping to ease some of the permitting demands. One of the things that's really exciting, so obviously in Illinois we have CEJA, and for all the people who worked hard on CEJA, thank you. I know we don't necessarily always get the opportunity to look at the metrics, but I can say that as of June 30th, and we're still waiting for some of the data to come since then, because the state had some portal changes, but the state has, since 2019 through June of this summer, installed 35,500 residential systems. That's not even commercial or community or utility or schools or anything else. That's 35,000 residential systems. So when we talk about the importance of policy, policy is everything. So this summer, as folks are probably aware, the Inflation Reduction Act was passed, and opening up the tax credits, extending them for the next 10 years, really giving solar a long ramp so that we have a lot more predictability. As other speakers mentioned, nonprofits are eligible at this point. So it's really exciting, all of the things that are happening. And analysts are forecasting that solar will triple in the next 5 years across the country. So incredibly exciting if you're a clean energy advocate, incredibly exciting if you're looking to buy solar, if you're an installer and are in the industry. If you're a municipality, however, this might not be very exciting news. A lot of times municipalities, they've had a lot of budget cuts. They don't necessarily have all the resources that they need. And so folks team together, all the National Electrical Code, the International Building Codes, UL is involved, National Renewable Energy Source. So there's lots of very technical resources that grouped together to create an online instant permitting process. And so what will happen is just residential. It's not going to be a commercial system. It's not flat roofs, but on a standard residential pitched roof, An installer would be able to go online, enter all the technical details, that's structural, electrical, all the code requirements, and they will be issued an instant permit as long as that system is code compliant. If it's not, they'll be prompted for where they're out of code compliance, and then they'll be able to re-enter that information. So you don't necessarily have all of the back and forth. For anybody who has solar, pulling a permit is anywhere from 2 weeks just to do the drawings to 2 months to get a permit. So it really is going to save folks time and money, which is incredible. But most importantly, it will support those municipalities and all of our local governments who are doing code review. So it's incredibly exciting to be able to do this. My ask of this organization is who has influence within their communities. Often people will say it's tricky to change City Hall, and permitting is definitely one of those departments that is a little hesitant towards change. And this is all new technology for them. Many have been spending the last year just migrating to online permitting and really joining, modern times of being able to have those online resources. So this is one step forward. It's free for the municipality. And we help them get onboarded and do all of the legwork. So really what I'm looking for is opening doors and introductions. Not only can you permit solar, but it will also permit batteries. We're very close to being able to permit EV charging stations for residential projects, and keeping you current with the latest and greatest codes. So there's a lot of great stuff that's coming through.
Okay, thank you so much, Lisa. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. And so now we are concluding the presentation portion of our meeting. I am so pleased to have so many of you still online. We had a large group of the registrations came people from 25 different communities. It helps give a sense of how big Go Green Illinois has grown and how many communities we can impact with our advocacy. And so with that, again, thank you. We're now going to do what we always do, which is quick updates from communities. We are going to adjourn at 3 o'clock, so we're not going to have a chance to call on everybody. So do me a favor, if you would like to be called on for your community, please put it in the chat. Kim and I will monitor that chat and we'll call on you. But we're not going to do the A to Z roll call because we're just not going to have time for that. So put your name in the chat, first come, first serve, and we'll call on you. I'll start briefly by saying that Wilmette is very excited to announce that we've just hired a sustainability coordinator who is going to be shared between our village, our park district, and possibly our school district. Of course, I think they all deserve their very own sustainability coordinators, but this is a really good start. So if that's a model that might work with your community, have your town manager call our town manager and find out how and why we did it this way. So wish us luck, and we're looking forward to good progress in Wilmette. Okay, who else would like to say anything?
I'm not sure if Chris, you had wanted to say something, or if you were just telling Lisa that you were from Aurora.
Yes, I have a quick announcement. So after a couple years hiatus, Greenfest Aurora will be back May 13th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So just wanted to make sure everyone was aware. We will be updating the website pretty soon, but we are looking for vendors and for people to have booths. So if you're interested, please reach out. We're trying to reach out to some people that we've had in the past or people that we're interested in having. And like I said, there should be a vendor application on the website once it gets updated pretty soon. Thank you.
Thanks. And if you can post those sorts of events to our website, then people will know about them, as always.
Yes, once the website's updated, I will share that with you for posting. Thank you.
And for any communities that have public events, one thing that is really important is to help the community realize that we should celebrate in ways that don't harm the planet. So greening events is really, really important. And it takes at least 3 months planning in advance. So look ahead to your summer events and see whether or not you can't put in some guidelines for greening those events. If you need some of those guidelines, Nicole Boomgarden at Go Green Wilmette can help with that. And I'm sure some of the other people here can help as well. Who else
Deb
would like
from
to-
Deerfield.
Right.
I'd want to speak.
Hi there. We have a couple of programs that, in addition to our ongoing work on transportation, electrifying transportation and zero waste and all of that kind of stuff, we have two relatively new programs. We're doing an energy ambassador program, energy and sustainability ambassador program where specific residents are have signs in their front yards saying that they're available to answer questions for anybody who wants to ask them. And we're also, this is a relatively new program to us. We've become aware of the Homegrown National Park program, and we're focusing our work on rehabbing lawns and going wild in our landscaping. We're focusing through the Homegrown National Park program. So that's kind of cool. It's a Doug Tallamy program. That's it.
Okay, great. Doug Tallamy wrote a fabulous book called Nature's Best Hope. Our intern said, Beth, you should just buy dozens of these copies and hand them out on street corners, because that book is really inspiring to help people understand how important it is to wild our yards and our communities. Normally, everyone gives a report. So let's see.
Mary has her hand up from Glenview.
Okay, Mary from Glenview, Mary Monday from Glenview.
Following up on what Deb just said, we applied for a local grant to fund a natural or native habitat Glenview program to get certified across the village through the National Wildlife Federation. Doug Tallamy had given his program through the National Wildlife Federation. So we're waiting to hear about that, but we'll probably, we'll see what we can do to move forward anyway. But we already have 39 homes, residences, and some schools who are certified through them. So we're doing that. And our Energy and Natural Resources, Environment and Natural Resources Commission awards sustainability awards each year. And we're in the running for that. So that's all.
Okay, great. I'm gonna call on some people now. I'd love to hear what's happening in Glen Ellen. Jacqueline.
Hi, everyone. We're off to kind of a quiet start for the year because we're in the process of incorporating as a 501c3. So we're working on our paperwork and trying to meet with our board to plan our strategic initiatives for this year. So not a lot going on at the moment, but hopefully I'll have more updates for the next call.
Okay, how about Northbrook? I know you've got some great programs coming up.
Hi, this is Sheetal from Northbrook. Yes, we do. So we are in the midst of planning our programs for 2023, and we do have exciting lineup. I think one thing we are also looking at is aligning with the compost week, the compost awareness. We are going to do another panel discussion with our library. So one important thing we did early this year is we had a meeting with our village president and our new village manager, who actually comes from Oak Park and has been in the job for about a year and a half, because the budget is going to be passed in March. So we wanted to get some initiatives, in the budget regarding some energy, just some pilot energy initiatives and, getting public works involved with composting. So we had that meeting and we got commitment from them along those lines. So that was a big one for us this month.
Okay, great. Thank you. Also, I just wanted to mention again, Go Green Illinois Schools. If you want to work on this project year round, instead of a meeting every once in a while, please put your name in the chat, because Katie Narwhal would love to have a team to work on that. We saw that, let's see, Janet Smetana would like to update for Palatine. And while she's getting on, Tracy Edsey Park Ridge, District 64, has started a district-wide green team, which is really exciting. So they're making some progress in Park Ridge. Janet, you ready?
Sorry. Yeah, in Palatine, the leader of our small group in Palatine so far had a chance to go to a training session with the Coalition for Plastic Reduction and is reaching out to our state rep to support the bill on banning styrofoam in Illinois. So that's one thing, that's one amongst many other things. We work to collaborate with other groups in Palatine to promote our sustainability initiatives here. And I would just ask that I'm going to put into the chat a link to a YouTube video that we had at a presentation we had at our library by on water, the Great Lakes, sustainability for the Great Lakes. It was really a great video. I apologize, it's in 4 different links, but it's really a great video if anybody gets a chance to watch it. But I'll put that in the chat. That's all.
Great, thanks. I don't see anyone from Vernon Hills, but I know that they are doing a webinar called, it's in person. No, it's not a webinar, it's in person. It's the ABCs of EVs. That is done by none other than Jay Futterman. He's from Highland Park. He's an EV expert. Go Green Wilmette hosted a webinar with him. Ours is recorded and on Go Green Wilmette's YouTube channel, but I know that Vernon, I think it's Vernon Hills, is hosting a show about EVs. There's a lot of curiosity about EVs right now.
Beth, I think that is on February 7th, if I'm correct.
Yes.
According to Jay's calendar.
But it is in person, which makes it a little bit harder, but some of you live closer to where that's being held. But thank you, Jenny.
It's posted on the Go Green Illinois website.
Okay.
Liz just raised her hand.
Who has? Liz. All right, Liz, great.
Thanks. I wanted to, I'm glad Janet said what she did about the polystyrene ban, because it reminded me that I met yesterday briefly in a different context, but with Senator Laura Fine's Chief of Staff, Ben Isabel, and he mentioned some of her top legislative priorities for this session, which starts tomorrow, one of which is that polystyrene ban. One of them is also a PFAS reduction bill, truth in recycling, labeling. And all of those, and as well as a Compost Awareness Week bill, which is an updated version of what she introduced last year. But all of those are such priorities for her that they're planning to introduce them this week or next, which means that they may be heard in committee before the next full meeting of this group. So I will be monitoring those bills as much as I can to see when they get in front of committee, because that's when we have the opportunity to submit witness slips in support or opposition if we have concerns about them. But so some of those may have that opportunity before the March meeting of this group. So I'll be in touch with Beth and Kim about getting information out whenever there's an opportunity to submit a witness slip for a relevant bill, and share it with the group as appropriate. Thanks.
Okay, do we have a report from Highland Park before we wrap up? And if anyone else wants to give a report, please let us know. Highland Park?
Jenny,
I got an email back from City Council today that they are moving forward with organics for all. So we will have curbside collection for all single family homes, which was a little unsure in the fall, but it's happening. So I guess that's it. I'm going to be busy educating people. Kim, I have no idea. I'm blanking out if there's anything else going on in Highland Park.
Not that I know of at the moment.
Okay, so our next meeting is in March, and the topic has not yet been settled. It's March 14th. We would really love your ideas to help guide us when we choose our topics. We have a chance to delve into 6 topics a year. We were delighted with all the interest in the sustainable schools, and many thanks again to the speakers who are still, many of whom are still on with us. Please be sure to share the link with anyone you think should watch this. And Kim Stone, co-facilitator, why don't you conclude? And you've got 4 minutes if you want them, or 3 minutes.
3 whole minutes. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to any of our speakers who are still on, and thank you even to our speakers who are not on anymore. And thank you to Beth for putting together an amazing and fully packed program of information. As I said, the chat will be posted to the website, as will the video of the program. Feel free to share this with your school districts if they were not on, or even if they were on, so that they can get some of this information and incorporate some of these ideas into their operations. Our next meeting is March 14th at 1 o'clock. It will be virtual, and the only way for you to get a link to that meeting is to be on our email list, which you can get on our website by signing up. If you have ideas for topic for that meeting, please email Beth or I. You can do that through the website. That's probably the easiest way. There's a contact form, or if you have our email addresses, you can do it that way as well. Hopefully we will see you at that meeting, and thank you all for being here.